Welcome to our weekly Forex forecast, and today we are looking at our analysis for the week of July 8th to the 12th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. As usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our Forex factory here, our economic calendar. So this week, actually this week here, let's see what we have coming up this week. All right, so here we have, before we actually get going into this week's numbers here, or events that are coming up. So last week we had non-farm payroll numbers that came in better than expected for the US. And as a result of that, we saw US dollar actually go up. Prior to that, US dollar had been dropping because of all the expectations that Fed will cut rates later this month. So with the non-farm payroll numbers here, we got the positive sentiment there. US got the positive sentiment that Fed may not, really do a big interest rate cut. And also US and China are talking again. They are working on this whole trade war stuff, and that is positive as well. As a result of that, we have seen equity markets have been doing well, as well as the US dollar with the non-farm payroll kind of turned around as well. So that's what we have going into this week. So let's see what we have coming up that we need to pay attention to. So on a Monday here, we have a whole bunch of yellow data, which is not as important. So Tuesday here, we do have Fed Chair Powell speaking here. So actually, we have a few FOMC members here. So now that the US and China talks have resumed, as well as the data is not as bad as everybody's expecting in terms of the employment numbers here, market will be kind of looking for what is the direction that the Fed's going to go in. So these FOMC members' speeches will be important because everybody's basically looking to see how they are going to go vote in terms of interest rate cuts. So that's why we need to pay attention to these speeches here on Tuesday. We do have consumer sentiment numbers for Australia. And these numbers, if they come out positive, will be good for Australian dollar. So Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar have actually done quite well recently as well, with US and China talks resuming. This is good for both Australia and New Zealand because both of these countries are big trade partners with China. So that's why we have seen Australian dollar and a New Zealand dollar go up as a result of that. So on Wednesday here, we have GDP number for British pound here. So there were some concerns with the state of the economy in UK. So if the GDP numbers show us that there is a decline in those numbers, that would be negative for British pound. But British pound has been hit quite hard with all the Brexit stuff that's going on currently. So we have to be careful with how much further British pound goes. So just keep an eye on the numbers, but as well as the Brexit news that's coming out as well. And then manufacturing numbers, of course, those both will be important. And then later on here in the New York session, we have Bank of Canada monetary policy numbers here. So we have heard a lot of different banks changing the monetary policy, Australia, New Zealand, and Fed, of course. So Bank of Canada hasn't quite done that. They have not insinuated anything about cutting rates at this point. So all eyes will be on Bank of Canada to see what their stance is in regards to changing the monetary policy. So far, Bank of Canada has stayed away from that. They have stopped raising rates, but they haven't quite shifted their monetary policy in terms of expanding it. So if there are any changes in the tone of the Bank of Canada, in regards to an expansionary policy like everybody else is doing, that will be negative for Canadian dollar. However, they're not expected to cut rates at this point. I think Canada is still doing okay in terms of the economic situation here. That's why I do not believe that Bank of Canada is quite ready to go down that path. However, again, it's a forward direction that the market is looking for, not exactly what they're doing right now, because nobody's expecting that rate cut. But again, commentary will be very, very important. And of course, we have Bank of Canada press conference, and this is where everybody gets to ask questions, and those answers to those questions can have an impact on Canadian dollar as well. So we generally see a first reaction when the statement comes out, and then a second reaction when the press conference takes place. And of course, this is the week that we also have FOMC meeting minutes here. So this is, this is what the Fed's did. The Powell statement here will be important because it will give us an insight into what we have coming up for FOMC meeting minutes. Now, I don't expect them to cut rates, but if they do, that will be negative for US dollar, and we are likely to see everything go up against the US dollar. So keep an eye on that. Or if they give strong forward direction to saying they're going to cut rates next time, that will also be negative for the US dollar. So very, very important FOMC meeting minutes here. And then coming up, we also have ECB monetary policy meeting accounts. It's similar to FOMC meeting minutes here. So we have 3 central banks this week. So expect volatility in the market. Now, again, these are not the bigger meetings except for Bank of Canada, but these will have an impact right now because central banks are changing their monetary policy. And then we have CPI, which are the inflation numbers coming for the US. We have seen US data coming out negative lately. So if this continues, even though the non-farm payroll data was positive, if we see the continued trend of negative data out of the US, then market will again kind of go into that bearish mode towards US dollar, and we could see US dollar drop. And then we have a Fed Chair Powell testifying here. So for a couple of days, again, comments out of his testimony will be important because that's what market is really looking for right now to see what Fed is going to do. And on Friday, we have PPI numbers here, and that brings us to the end in terms of our news. So let's go on to the charts now. Okay, so we'll start off with euro dollar. All right, so last week we had the indecision kind of candle here, and price was into the support resistance level coming all the way from here. This week we have seen a big drop in euro. So now our bias is bearish. We could see euro drop further now. With this one though, in terms of a pullback, we could get a pullback into 1.1320-ish level here. So I would keep an eye on that. So 1.1320 will be a potential pullback level. And then target here is 1.1280. So essentially looking for, if you take a look at this, price has been trading in this range for a while now. So I'm just looking for price to come back towards the bottom of the range here. So bias here is bearish for euro dollar, and first target is target is 1.1120. So bearish bias here for euro. And the move that I would look for will be something like this, a potential pullback, and then a further drop here. So bearish bias. Now, if let's say we do not see any interest rate drop or even a talk of interest rate drop from US in the FOMC meeting minutes or from Powell, then in that case we could see this drop further. So be on a lookout for that. Right now, market is expecting an interest rate cut, and they're expecting Fed to change directions. And we have seen President Trump really pushing for that. He was even looking into means to replace Powell. so that he could get that interest rate cut. However, those things have not happened yet. So this is why it's very important to see what Fed does, because last time when President Trump wanted Fed to stop raising rates, he had meetings with Powell and all of that, and they did stop raising rates. So if President Trump really puts pressure on the Fed, even though they're supposed to be separate, we could still see an interest rate cut. So expect volatility and sentiment going into this FOMC meeting. And then we have a British pound here. So pound is bearish. Price was into resistance last time, so now we have seen it drop. So bias is still bearish here. In terms of our bias here, still stays bearish. So I am looking for a further drop. Now, do keep in mind, British pound has been bearish for a while. So as it continues lower, we have to get cautious about it, because we could start seeing things turn around, and this will be our support level. So I'm looking for price to drop. A potential pullback level is 1.1620, and then looking for it to come and retest this low here, and then we could get that bounce up. So watch out for that. Bias is bearish, and target here is 1.2380 as the first target. And if we do see price going lower, then the next target is 1.2230. So bias is bearish for British pound here. Aussie dollar, this one, we did see it go up, but then it got stuck at the support resistance level. So we can remove these ones. So this is where it got stuck in. So this was a strong support resistance level. So now we have seen price drop from there. So bias is bearish here, looking for price to drop further. And if we notice here, this has also been trading in a range for the last several weeks now. So looking for price to come back towards the middle and the bottom of the range here, because this one has been rejected from the top of the range. So looking for price to drop here. Can this be seen as a retracement? It can be, if only if it breaks. If it breaks through the high, it could act as a retracement as opposed to a reversal from the top. So we could see something like this and a move like that, right? But for that to happen, what I would look for is a retest of the high, and it has to break the high, and then I will look for a pullback. If it does that and holds above, only then would I go bullish on this. Otherwise, I'm not looking for a bullish move. Right now, I'm seeing it more as a range-bound move. And since it's rejected the top here, I'm looking for it to drop. Now, should Fed cut rates, then yes, all the US dollar crosses, I'm looking for them to turn bullish. So this, the bullish scenario can definitely happen, but I would be looking for it more based on what Fed does as opposed to what the current situation is. Okay, so for now, bias is bearish, but like I said, should Fed come out and cut rates, I will look for this one to go higher, and in fact, all the dollar crosses. But for now, bias is bearish, and in terms of the pullback, I would look for a potential pullback into 0.70 level and then a drop. So bias is bearish, looking for it to go down like that. So bearish bias for Aussie dollar. Target, 0.6850. New Zealand dollar, this one as well. We had talked about this one last week as to how price was into resistance, and from there we have seen a drop. So this one as well, looking for price to drop further here. Bias is bearish. And then looking for a pullback, potentially into 0.6650 level, and then a further move to the downside. Target is 0.6490. So bearish bias for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here. This one is an indecision candle. It does look like it rejected this 1.3140, but we have Bank of Canada coming this week, which could have an impact on Canadian dollar. So with this one, we could see a retest of 1.3140. Now, if it stays below this level here, we are looking for price to drop. I will look for price to drop further into 1.2980. So for now, though, it is neutral because of the way the candle is, but as long as it stays below 1.3140, chances are it's going to drop. So neutral bias for now. Euro pound here, this one has been trading in a range for quite some time. As we can see, price has been getting stuck at this 0.8990 level here and hasn't really done a whole lot beyond that. So keeping that in mind here, bias is bearish because it hasn't been able to break above that level. So I will look for a potential retest again and then a drop here. So bias here is bearish for euro pound. Target is 0.8840. So bearish bias for euro pound. Euro Swiss franc here. This one went up higher. Last time it was an indecision candle. It went up higher into the support resistance level, and now we have a pin. So looking for price to drop here. So my bias for this would be bearish, and I will look for a potential retest here. It could go retest and then come back down. So bias is bearish for Euro Swiss franc. Potential pullback level is 1.1170 and target is 1.1050. Pound Swiss franc here, this one is also looking bearish. Price hasn't really done a whole lot. We have two small candle closes here, or two small back-to-back candles here. So with this one here, it's an indecision candle. This one could move in either direction. So as long as price holds below 1.2500, this big support and resistance here, I will look for it to drop. But should it go through the high here, then it could go further into this level here. So watch out for that. But for now, it is neutral and could go either way. But if it stays below this level, 1.2500, I would look for price to drop. So basically retest and drop. That's what I'm looking for. But like I said, if it breaks the high of this candle here, then chances are very high that it goes to the next level. So neutral bias for now for pound Swiss franc. Dollar Swiss franc, this one was very strong here. So last week we had a neutral candle here, and this week we have seen a big move to the upside because US dollar was stronger. Now, with that, one thing to keep in mind, there is support and resistance into this level, so things could turn. But for now, just based on the candle alone here, bias is bullish. With all the US dollar crosses, like I said, if the FOMC is dovish, then US dollar is likely to drop, whether they cut rates or not. But if they stay, give forward guidance in terms of cutting rates, US dollar is likely to drop then. But for now, based on just the technicals alone, this is looking bullish. But keep in mind, it is into resistance. However, bias is bullish and looking for price to go up further. So we could get a potential pullback like this and then a move higher. So bias is bullish. Potential pullback level is 0.9850 and the target is 1.0020. So bullish bias for dollar Swiss franc. Pound yen here, this one is bearish. We saw that price got stuck into the support resistance level here. And now we have a nice bearish candle close. Now do keep in mind though, this is into support here as well. So we have to be careful with pound yen, but bias is bearish. We have a bearish engulfing candle here. So looking for it to drop further. Target is 133.20 and we could get a pullback, potential pullback into 136.50 and then a drop. So a bit of a pullback like this and drop. That's what I'm looking for. Target is 133.20. Euro yen here as well. We saw that this one also got stuck into the support resistance level, which we had talked about last week here as well. So we have a nice bearish engulfing candle close here. So looking for price to go back into the bottom of the range. So if you take a look at this one here as well, for last several weeks, price has been trading in a range. Now we have seen the rejection from the high. So like this, now looking for price to go towards the bottom here. And target is 120.80 is the first target. And then we have to be careful because we would be into support. And as we can see, even though we had a nice strong bearish candle close, it was not able to break the support. In fact, price had gone back towards the top of the range. So this is where we have to be careful because price could just come down and then do this. Okay, but for now, bias is bearish. First target is 120.80 and then 120. And if for some reason it wants to continue, then we are looking at 118.50, but that's a little far away. So 120.80 is the first target, then 120 as the second target. So bearish bias. Dollar yen here. This one has gone towards the top of the range. Now we are into the support resistance, so we have to be careful with this one here as well. But it is looking bullish, and next target here, so bias is bullish, and next target is 109.80. But like I said, we are into the top of the range, so watch out for a reversal because it could do one of these. For now though, bias is bullish with caution, and target is 109.80. Okay, Aussie yen here. This one, we see that price rejected the support resistance level. Again, it was a strong support resistance level. Now, it's not the best candle close, but it is bearish. So I will look for price to drop. With this one, though, if it breaks through the high, this one can turn bullish here. And we could see price go into 89.20 or this 79.20 or 78 level here. So watch out for that. But for now, because it's bearish, I will look for price to come back towards the bottom of this candle here, 74.30 level. So bearish bias right now, but like I said, we have to be cautious because if it breaks above this level here, above 76.30, then I will look for it to go to 78. For now, though, bearish target is 74.30. New Zealand yen here, this one has also rejected this resistance level. Last time we were looking for price to go up, so we went right into this resistance and then it has come down. So this is looking bearish. I will look for price to drop further. First target would be in this case 71 and then 70.26. So bearish bias for New Zealand yen. And in terms of a pullback, I will look for a pullback around 72.50 potentially, and then looking for a drop. So bearish bias for New Zealand yen as well. All right, so now let's take we have CAD yen. CAD yen is looking bullish here. This one was bullish last time as well, had a nice pullback and a good solid bullish pin bar here because Canadian dollar has been strong. So bias is bullish, next target is 84.30. But with this one, we have to be extra careful because we have Bank of Canada as well as we have FOMC. So Canadian dollar can get impacted by both of them. So keep that in mind. But for now, it is bullish. Target is 84.30. And in terms of a pullback, we could look for a pullback into 82.50 and then a further move to the upside. All right, so now let's take a look at commodities here. So we will start off with our gold here. So gold has dropped. So we have a bearish bias here for gold. But notice how this has been trading in a range here for several days here. So let's go to the weekly chart. Okay, so it went to test the high and then we see a drop. So for now, bias is bearish. Sorry about that. Okay, my apologies there. No, we got a little puppy and okay, so my apologies there. Okay, here, this one, so I would say bearish here, looking for price to drop further. First target would be 1380, so looking for it to come back and test this low here. And then second target is into this level here, right here, so 1366.50. So bias is bearish for gold. For silver here, we have seen this one drop on the daily and on the weekly here as well. This looks bearish. We have a nice bearish candle close for this. So looking for price to drop further here for silver as well. First target is 15.14. So something like this is what I'm looking for. First target is 14.80, and then 14.50 will be the second target here. And pullback will be 15.15. So bearish bias for silver. Oil here. Oil's been going back and forth here, but we have seen that price rejected the high here. So bias is bearish. And we could get a bit of pullback here into 58.50 level, but bias is bearish, looking for it to drop further, and target is 54.80. So bearish bias for oil there. Copper here, copper has been interesting. It did drop from the high here. We saw price went into this support resistance level, dropped, and now bias is bearish. We could get a bit of a pullback into 2.66 and then a drop here. So looking for move back into the bottom here. So this one has also been in a range. So if we were to remove our support resistance there, we see this, it's been trading in a range for several weeks now. So it's rejected the high of the range. So looking for it to move back towards the bottom of the range there. So bearish bias here for copper. Bitcoin here. So this one, I do not have the latest chart. So please look at the latest chart. But based on what we have here, based on the Friday's close here, this one's looking bearish. But this one has also been sort of trading in this range. So I would look for price to come towards this 9,600, and then it could just stay sideways for a bit here. So watch out for that. Does not seem to have a lot of momentum. It's still holding above this 9,600 level. And as long as it stays above this level, the momentum is still to the upside. So the trend is to the upside. So bias is still overall bullish. But for now, I think this one could drop a bit. S&P 500. Okay, so this one here on the weekly basis, it has gone up. So we have a bullish move to the upside. On the daily, though, we did see a bit of a pullback here. So I will look for a retest of this 2965, but overall this is looking bullish, and we are likely to see a further move up here, and the target is 3030. Now with this one though, one thing that we have to be careful about is, again, FOMC. If they say anything about cutting rates, then the equity markets are likely to go up. So whether they cut rates or not, but if they talk about it and mention that they are going to cut rates or they are preparing to cut rates or anything like that, that is dovish for the US dollar, because of the dovish commentary, will be positive for the equity markets, because equity markets like interest rate cuts, because when the central banks cut interest rates, that means the businesses can borrow money at a lower interest rate, which is positive for the business and the economy and the growth, but it is negative for the currency. So this is why if Fed cuts rate, we're looking for equity markets to go up. So bias here is bullish, and I would look for a bit of a pullback into 2965 here potentially, and then a further move to the upside, and target is 3030. And then NASDAQ here, similar thing here. We are into all-time highs though, so do keep that in mind. but doesn't seem to be bearish at this point. Market is optimistic that Fed will cut rates, and hence it has been bullish. So in this case, we could get a bit of a pullback, but I am looking for a further move higher. Again, if the interest rates get cut, then definitely we could see this move to the upside. Target is 8020 here, so bullish bias here for NASDAQ. For DAX here, this one is indecision candle here. It could move in either direction, but if US equities markets start moving in a bullish direction, then we're likely to see the European follow as well. So right now here, this one I would say is neutral for the moment. And then FTSE here, FTSE has gone up as well. We could get a bit of a pullback into 7520-ish area, but this is looking bullish as well. And we could see a further move higher. Now with this one though, what I would say is if we do not see a break of 7620, then it could turn around like this. But for now, bias is bearish, bias is bullish, and I would watch out for the high here of 7622. But for now, it is looking bullish, and next target is 77, and then beyond that, it could go higher into 7,800. So I do not worry too much about the gap, Nick, because the futures markets here, it's different. It's not, the candles are not, the gaps are not as important here because the markets are usually closed. That's why we see a gap up, prices jump up. But generally, yes, gaps and stuff play into that. So yeah, it will be bullish, but I would be careful about basically trying to sell into the gap. That's all I want to say. But yes, it does. It is looking bullish. All right, so that's all I have. Just a quick note here. If you guys like this type of daily analysis that we are doing, we do this on a daily basis as well. So if you would like to join me every day to do this type of analysis, I do it every Monday to Thursday. And I also send you a spreadsheet where you'll have at-a-glance information. It'll tell you the market direction, potential pullback levels, and target levels. For all of this, and we do over 20 Forex pairs as well as Bitcoin, commodities, and indices on a daily basis. And like I said, we'll look at pullback levels, which are our potential entry levels, and profit target levels for each pair that we analyze. And of course, there's a private Facebook group that you can join, and you can ask me questions, so you have access to me, as well as every once in a while, I go in and throw market commentary in there and share my trade ideas in there as well. So you have access to all of that, and you also get my pivot point indicator when you join this. Plus, there are some previous trainings that I have done that are available to you as well. And if you want to go join, you can go to bit.ly, this link here, and Trade Vault. All right, so that's it. We'll call it a wrap here. All right, so that's it. We'll wrap it up here. You guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.